Hello everyone. Well, after a few days of really cold weather, the summer is back here in Quebec, and I'm really hoping it will linger for a few more weeks. Welcome back to Brome Bird News. As you all might know, no matter how many hummingbird feeders you leave up, when it's time for hummingbirds to migrate, they just up and go. Here in southern Quebec, they disappear in mid-September. My last sighting was on September 13th. I do, however, leave all my hummingbird feeders up for another 2 weeks. I have just made a fresh batch of nectar and refilled all my feeders, hoping to catch another hummingbird that is traveling from up north and it's been delayed for some odd reason. Just make sure to check on your nectar, because if it's warm like this, it will go bad and no one will touch it. Since we're talking about hummingbirds, now is the perfect time to plant native perennial flowers for the next year to attract hummingbirds to your backyard. As you can see, I went back to my favorite garden center and I rescued more native flowers. So this is what I found. Here's the yarrow. There were different colors. I went for this one because hummingbirds prefer red, pink, purplish colors. Then they had a whole tray of cardinal flowers, so I took it all. It was half price, so that's perfect for me. And then of course you can never have too many echinacea plants. I went for different colors again to attract butterflies, bees, hummingbirds, and later on finches when these flowers go to seed. Here's also a list of the most common native perennial flowers that you can plant to attract hummingbirds. Good luck, everyone. Most birds migrate at night. They orient themselves by the stars, so artificial lights coming from urban areas can confuse them easily. For unknown reasons, lights from windows attract and disorient them completely. So this week's challenge for you is turn off the lights outside if you're not using them or not expecting any guests. Draw all the blinds and the curtains in the rooms that you are using at night, and don't leave any lights in the unused rooms. Check out this interactive fun map that shows you where the birds are migrating to and from. Dale Knapp from Michigan has 5 to 6 wren houses on his property, and every year they have at least 2 couples using them. His grandfather also used to make wren houses out of old coffee cans or large juice cans. So his question is, what happens to the poor wrens that end up in a neighborhood with no birdhouses specifically for them?
Hi Dale, please don't worry about those so-called poor little wrens. While they do especially welcome artificial nest cavities of various inventions and designs, they've been using all sorts of natural cavities long before humans ever took any interest in them. They do like preformed cavities in trees, but they'll occasionally use rock crevices and holes in sandbanks. Sometimes they use the nests of other cavity nesters such as kingfishers and swallows, and even those pendulous oriole nests. They've even used open cup nests of robins, phoebes, and barn swallows. One adventurous bird built its nest among the interwoven sticks of an osprey nest. Not a serious risk though, considering that ospreys mostly eat fish and never could catch a speedy tiny wren in any case. If they have a choice, wrens like cavities with entrance holes not much bigger than 2 inches and around 10 feet off the ground. Doesn't matter whether the tree is live or dead. Some of the stranger nest locations are farm machinery, fish creels, old boots, pockets and old coats hung in a barn, and even the moose and cow skulls hung in a wall. While the nest cup is usually lined with grass, roots, bark, hair, and feathers, stranger things include shed snakeskin, cellophane, wire, hairpins, and paper clips. The snakeskin and cellophane apparently make other birds think there's a snake waiting inside the nest hole. Clever little birds indeed.
We haven't talked about bird collisions and planes in a while, so here's a follow-up to the study that was started after the 2009 miracle on the Hudson. Remember when a plane collided with a flock of geese and was forced to land in the Hudson River? Well, after that disaster, scientist Sujot Chan set out to find a non-intrusive and not so expensive solution to keeping birds away from the airports. He studied birds' behavior when flying in flocks and came up with a special control algorithm that allows a drone to steer or herd flocks of birds away from the airports. This algorithm has already been tested in Korea, and it looks like that just one drone can herd a flock of birds without harming them or freaking them out. On Around the World, we have bad news and we have good news. I'll start with the bad news. Well, the Spix's macaw, this was the character named Blue in Disney's Rio movie, is officially extinct in the wild. There was a sighting in 2016, but scientists think that's just an escapee because there are 60 to 80 birds still living in captivity. I mean, all that Brazil has to do is restore their habitats. And now the good news. The warm weather that England experienced this summer wasn't just great for tourism, it was fabulous for the great bustard population that has been declining there for quite some time. You see, warm weather is really good for rearing chicks. Normally this bird only hatches one chick a year despite laying 3 to 4 eggs. So England's great bustard group has been swapping their eggs with the dummy wooden ones. You see, this bird hasn't really made the smartest birds list, and then incubating and hand rearing chicks in captivity until they're strong enough to be released into the wild. With all the warm weather, however, all the chicks in the wild have survived, and now the great bustard population is self-sustaining. Remember the story about Rhode Island suing the federal government over the rising sea levels and climate change? Well, now California, Illinois, Maryland, Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, New Mexico, and Oregon are suing the federal government for the changes done to the Migratory Bird Treaty Act at the end of 2017. So hopefully, with the more states joining in, the MBTA will be returned to the way it should be. And here's also a report from David, actually his thoughts about Canada's national bird.
You know, I've been extolling the virtues of the Canada jay as a national bird for Canada, but I've never really told you why our country should even have a national bird. It's really quite simple, folks. Birds are important to humans in myriad ways. They eat pests, pollinate our plants and crops, disperse seeds, and their eggs and meat feed us. Yes, chickens are birds, and their feathers keep us warm. They've saved human lives by acting as literal canaries in coal mines and by globally warning us of environmental health hazards such as carcinogenic pesticides and industrial byproducts. Birdwatching and bird feeding contribute billions of dollars to our economy. And don't forget the intrinsic value of birds. Who can deny that birds entertain us in so many ways with their beauty, their song, and their flight? How many great writers, artists, filmmakers, aviators, and astronauts were inspired by these amazing, unique creatures? Birds have even helped forge nations. If you don't believe me, I've got 3 words for you: American bald eagle. In short, a world without birds will not just be a biological diminished world, but also an emotionally diminished one. And if we lose our birds, we'll lose ourselves. 106 of the world's 195 countries have official birds, but not Canada. We've got the beaver, maple leaf, ice hockey, lacrosse, and even a national horse, but no bird. 2018 is the year of the bird. What better time for our federal government to proclaim a national bird for Canadians?
Well, it's time to say goodbye. Please remember the bird migration is in full swing right now. This weekend we're off on another camping trip. Remember the island of cranes that I mentioned to you on the last episode? I'm really curious to check it out, what it's all about. I'll catch you in 2 weeks. Goodbye, everyone.